My name is Mackenzie. I'm 27, and last Saturday I watched my sister Bailey's wedding crash and burn in real time from my Denver apartment. You can watch the wedding online. My parents insisted after our fight. So I did. The crystal clear live stream showed every detail until the moment my screen froze on pure chaos, my sister screaming, champagne glasses shattering, and my entire family falling apart before my eyes. Before I tell you how my sister's perfect day turned into a viral disaster, drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe for more family drama stories that'll make yours seem normal. Bailey and I have always had what you might call a complicated relationship. Growing up, she was 3 years older and a million times more perfect. When I brought home B+ report cards, she had straight A's. When I made the softball team, she was team captain and homecoming queen. Our childhood bedroom was split down the middle, her side with neat shelves of trophies and honor roll certificates, my side with band posters and craft projects I never quite finished. "Why can't you be more like your sister?" became the soundtrack of my teenage years. My mom would sigh dramatically while fixing my rebellious fashion choices before family photos. Bailey would stand there already picture perfect, giving me that smile that looked sympathetic to adults, but I knew meant, I win again. Don't get me wrong, we had good moments too. Late night talks about boys, Bailey teaching me how to apply eyeliner without poking my eye out, standing united when our parents went through their rough patch when I was 14. But those moments always felt temporary, islands of connection in an ocean of competition I could never win. After college, I shocked everyone by turning down a job near home to move to Denver for a position at a digital marketing agency. My parents acted like I'd announced plans to join the circus. "But what about family Sunday dinners?" my mother had asked, genuinely bewildered anyone would choose career over meatloaf and passive-aggressive commentary on my life choices. Bailey, meanwhile, took the expected path. She moved back home after college, taught at the same elementary school she'd attended, and started dating Ryan Sullivan, whose family owned half the car dealerships in our county. They'd known each other since high school but reconnected at a charity gala. Ryan came from the kind of old money that built library wings and expected wives who joined the right committees. When Bailey got engaged, the wedding planning consumed our family group chat. Every day brought new messages about floral arrangements, venue negotiations, and bridesmaid dress drama. I participated from a distance, sending appropriate wow and beautiful responses to the endless photos. The invitation arrived in a thick cream envelope with real calligraphy. Inside was a handwritten note from Bailey, "Hope you can make it home for my special day. I've saved you a bridesmaid spot, though Jessica is my maid of honor, of course." That last part stung more than it should have. Jessica had only been Bailey's friend since college, while I'd been her sister for 27 years. But I swallowed my pride and called to accept. That's when everything fell apart. What started as a simple question about the bridesmaids' dresses escalated quickly. "The dresses aren't very forgiving," my mother said when I called. "Maybe you should try that diet I sent you article about before you come for the fitting." "Mom, I'm not dieting to fit into some dress for one day," I replied. "Well, Bailey wants everything perfect, and the photographer will be very expensive." One comment led to another. Old wounds reopened. I mentioned feeling like the family disappointment. Mom brought up my unstable career choices and lack of serious relationships. Bailey got involved, defending Mom, saying I was making her wedding about my issues again. Fine, I finally snapped. "I won't ruin your perfect photos with my imperfect body. I'm not coming." I hung up and cried for an hour. Later that night, my dad called with the compromise. "You can watch the wedding online," he said, his voice tired from playing mediator for decades. "We're having it professionally streamed for the relatives who can't travel. It might be better this way, less pressure for everyone." I agreed, partly from guilt, partly from relief. No uncomfortable dress, no judgmental looks, no questions about why I was still single. I could support Bailey without subjecting myself to family torture. In the weeks leading up to the wedding, I learned more details through my cousin Heather. Bailey had transformed from my somewhat controlling sister into a full-blown bridezilla. The wedding had ballooned to 300 guests, with ice sculptures, a 10-piece band, and custom monogrammed everything. Ryan's mother Patricia had opinions on every detail, and Bailey was caught between pleasing her future mother-in-law and creating her dream day. The night before the wedding, I received the live stream link from my dad with another message. Bailey says she wishes you were here. No apology, but it was something. I went to bed feeling that familiar mixture of guilt and resentment, wondering if I'd made the right choice. The morning of Bailey's wedding, I woke up early despite being in a different time zone. Nerves, I guess. I spent extra time on my appearance, even though no one would see me. There was something about watching my sister's wedding from my couch that felt even sadder if I did it in sweatpants. I put on the navy blue dress I would have worn as a guest, applied makeup carefully, and even styled my hair. My apartment became my personal reception venue. I hung string lights around my living room, set up my laptop on the coffee table with external speakers for better sound, and arranged a spread that would make any caterer proud: cheese plate, chocolate-covered strawberries, and a bottle of champagne I'd been saving for a special occasion. "Cheers to you, Bailey," I said to my empty apartment, taking a practice sip. "Hope your day is as perfect as you are." The live stream was scheduled to begin 30 minutes before the ceremony. At the appointed time, I clicked the link, champagne flute in hand, stomach fluttering with anticipation. Nothing happened. I refreshed the page. Still nothing. 10 minutes passed, then 20. Just as I was about to text my cousin, the screen flickered to life. The camera showed the country club garden where the ceremony would take place. Rows of white chairs with blush pink ribbons faced an elaborate floral arch. Mountains of pale pink and white roses cascaded from pedestals. Crystal vases caught the afternoon sunlight, sending prisms dancing across the manicured lawn. The camera operator zoomed in on arriving guests. I recognized my mother's college roommates, our ancient great-uncle Franklin, who still pinched cheeks like we were 5, and neighbors who'd watched us grow up. Everyone looked elegant, though I noticed my mom's side of the family clustered together, separate from Ryan's relatives with their country club tans and designer outfits. The camera panned to the bridal suite, where Bailey sat at a vanity in her robe while a stylist arranged her veil. My breath caught. She looked beautiful, but tense. Her smile seemed strained as she thanked the makeup artist. Behind her, bridesmaids in matching robes fluttered around like nervous birds. Jessica, the maid of honor, kept checking her phone with a worried expression. "Is everything okay?" Bailey asked her sharply. Jessica startled. "Yes, just checking the time. We're right on schedule." The camera moved away, but not before I caught a look exchanged between Jessica and another bridesmaid. The stream jumped to the groom's room, where Ryan and his groomsmen were finishing getting ready. Ryan knocked back a shot of something amber while his best man clapped him on the shoulder. Through the open door, I glimpsed an older woman who must be Patricia, Ryan's mother, having an intense conversation with who I assumed was the wedding planner. Their voices weren't clear, but their body language was: Patricia pointing at her watch, the planner nodding rapidly. Technical difficulties interrupted again, and I missed the next 15 minutes. When the stream returned, guests were seated and the ceremony was about to begin. The camera showed my parents in the front row. Mom looked immaculate, as always, not a hair out of place, dabbing at her eyes preemptively. Dad sat beside her, tugging at his collar, looking uncomfortable next to Ryan's father, whose rigid posture and critical gaze reminded me of a military commander. The music changed, and the procession began. Bridesmaids paired with groomsmen walked down the aisle, followed by Jessica alone, carrying a bouquet that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Then the bridal march played, and everyone stood. Bailey appeared on our father's arm, looking like she'd stepped out of a bridal magazine. Her dress was a masterpiece of lace and crystal, with a cathedral train that required 2 flower girls to manage. She smiled, but I knew my sister well enough to see it wasn't her real smile. Her eyes kept darting to Ryan's family, seeking approval. As they began their walk, I texted Heather, "Everything okay there?" Bailey looked stressed. Heather's reply came quickly, "So much drama behind scenes. Tell you later." The ceremony proceeded with traditional elements, readings, music, the pastor's comments about marriage. I watched Ryan take Bailey's hands at the altar, her engagement ring catching the light. For a moment, I felt a pang of regret for not being there in person. Despite our differences, she was still my sister. The camera occasionally caught side conversations. Patricia whispering to her husband. Jessica checking her phone under her bouquet. My father's gaze wandering to the exit as if calculating an escape route. Technical issues caused me to miss the vows, and by the time the stream stabilized, the pastor was pronouncing them husband and wife. Ryan kissed Bailey with perhaps too much enthusiasm for a formal wedding, and they turned to face their guests as Mr. and Mrs. Sullivan. They looked picture-perfect walking back down the aisle, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. The camera lingered on guests' faces, some smiling genuinely, others with forced expressions. The divide between the two families was visible in how they clustered on opposite sides, barely acknowledging each other during the recessional. I texted Heather again. "Missed the vows. Any drama I should know about?" Her response, "OMG, so much." Ryan's mom tried to change ceremony last minute. Bailey's barely holding it together. Also, rumor going around about Ryan. Call you later. As the guests moved toward the reception, I refreshed my champagne and prepared for the next phase of this virtual wedding experience, a sense of foreboding growing stronger by the minute. The live stream followed the wedding party to a picturesque bridge for photos, unintentionally capturing moments the official wedding album would certainly omit. The photographer positioned Bailey and Ryan in the center, families flanking them on either side. What struck me immediately was the invisible line dividing the group, Sullivan's on one side, our family on the other, with the newlyweds caught in the middle. "Closer together, please," the photographer called. "Like you actually like each other." Awkward laughter followed as everyone shuffled inches closer. The camera caught Bailey's maid of honor Jessica standing slightly apart, still checking her phone obsessively. When Ryan's best man whispered something to her, she shook her head sharply and moved away. The camera microphone wasn't intended to pick up private conversations, but technology has a way of revealing secrets. As the photographer rearranged people, Patricia's voice carried clearly. "I still think the orchids were a waste. Nobody appreciates the difference, and they'll die before the reception ends." My mother's reply was equally audible. "Bailey wanted orchids, and it's her wedding day. It's our son's day too, and we're the ones who paid for those flowers." Bailey's smile remained fixed, but her eyes darted between the mothers. Ryan seemed oblivious, his attention on straightening his cufflinks. Technical issues struck again, the hazard of live streams, and I missed the transition to the reception hall. When the video resumed, guests were finding their seats in a ballroom transformed into a floral wonderland. Crystal chandeliers hung above tables adorned with elaborate centerpieces. A spotlight illuminated the towering 8-tier cake decorated with sugar flowers that matched Bailey's bouquet. I quickly realized the seating arrangement was a political statement. My family was concentrated on tables to the left, the Sullivans dominated the right, with a few unfortunate mutual friends scattered between as a buffer zone. My dad was seated next to Ryan's father at the head table, both men looking like they'd rather be anywhere else. I sent another text to Heather, "What's with the Cold War seating arrangement?" Her response came during the salad course. Planning was a nightmare. Ryan's mom kept changing Bailey's decisions. Also, Ryan was 2 hours late to rehearsal dinner. Drunk. Big fight after. This was news to me. Bailey hadn't mentioned any of this during our brief, polite text exchanges in the days before the wedding. but it explained the tension visible even through my laptop screen. The best man rose for his toast, tapping his glass with a knife. He was clearly already intoxicated, swaying slightly as he gripped the microphone. "So, I've known Ryan since college," he began, back when he was working his way through the sorority houses. He paused for laughter that didn't come. "Just kidding, Mrs. Sullivan." "Kind of." Patricia's face could have frozen the champagne in my glass from 1,000 miles away. The best man continued, oblivious to the room's discomfort. "But seriously, Ryan's settled down now." "Mostly." He winked. "Bailey, you're getting a great guy. Just keep him away from Vegas and open bars, am I right?" Ryan forced a laugh, reaching for his drink. Bailey's smile had become so rigid it looked painful. Jessica's toast that followed was appropriate but stiff, as though she was choosing each word with extreme caution. What struck me was how she barely looked at Ryan throughout, addressing almost everything to Bailey alone. As dinner progressed, the camera occasionally panned across the room, capturing snippets of the increasingly strained celebration. Ryan drank steadily, his movements becoming less coordinated. Bailey whispered something to him, and he responded with an eye roll before turning to chat with the groomsmen. During the main course, I witnessed a tense exchange near the cake table. The camera wasn't focused there, but in the background, I could clearly see Patricia cornering Bailey, gesturing emphatically. My sister's face cycled through forced politeness to barely concealed anger before she excused herself, heading toward the restrooms with Jessica rushing after her. I texted Heather again. "What's Ryan's mom saying to Bailey by the cake?" Heather's response was immediate. Something about the reception schedule. Bailey wanted parent dances before cake. Patricia wants some toast from Ryan's godfather first. Stupid power move. I watched my sister return, her makeup freshly touched up, but her eyes betraying her stress. Ryan barely noticed, deep in conversation with his college friends, his arms slung around his best man. The DJ announced dinner was concluding and dancing would begin after the couple's first dance. As Bailey approached Ryan, the camera caught Jessica intercepting someone at the entrance, a server I didn't recognize, who handed her an envelope. Jessica's face went pale as she read whatever was inside. She immediately pulled the wedding planner aside, both of them glancing toward Ryan with unmistakable alarm. The planner shook her head, pointing at Patricia. My phone buzzed with a text from Heather. "Something weird happening. Jessica got note from someone. Now she's freaking out." Before I could respond, the DJ called for attention. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. and Mrs. Sullivan to the dance floor for their first dance." Bailey and Ryan moved to the center of the dance floor. The music began, their song, "Perfect," by Ed Sheeran. They began to sway, Bailey looking up at Ryan with what seemed like a plea in her eyes. He was smiling, but his eyes kept drifting to the entrance. Now, the DJ continued as the first dance ended. "Mrs. Patricia Sullivan has arranged a special surprise for the newlyweds." Bailey froze. This clearly wasn't on her schedule. Ryan's expression shifted from confusion to something that looked suspiciously like panic. The camera caught Patricia smiling triumphantly as she took the microphone. "Ryan and Bailey, marriage is a journey full of surprises. Speaking of surprises, there's someone special who wanted to celebrate with you today." My sister's face showed naked fear now. Jessica was halfway out of her seat, the wedding planner grabbing her arm to stop her. My parents exchanged baffled glances. The live stream, with its perfect high-definition clarity, was about to show me exactly why I should have trusted my instincts about this wedding from the beginning. The DJ's announcement about Patricia's special surprise hung in the air like a storm cloud. Bailey's eyes darted between her new mother-in-law and the entrance doors. Ryan had gone completely still, his champagne glass frozen halfway to his lips. Patricia continued, her voice honey-sweet, but her eyes sharp as flint. "We have a special video presentation prepared for our lovely couple, highlighting Ryan's journey to finding his perfect match." Relief flickered across Bailey's face. Just a video, not whatever she'd feared. The lights dimmed as a screen descended from the ceiling. Music began, Bruno Mars' Marry You, as photos of Ryan from childhood through college appeared. My phone buzzed continuously with texts from Heather. Bailey didn't know about this video. Ryan looks like he's about to be sick. Jessica is trying to get to the AV booth. The innocent montage continued until Ryan's college years, when suddenly a beautiful blonde appeared in the photos. First in group shots, then increasingly in couples photos with Ryan, arms around each other at parties, kissing at what looked like a fraternity formal, cuddled together at a beach. Bailey's confusion was visible even through my screen. These weren't photos of her. The music changed to The One That Got Away as the slideshow continued, showing Ryan and this mystery woman at what were clearly recent events, a Christmas party with a timestamp from last December, a ski trip from February. Just 3 months before the wedding. The ballroom erupted in murmurs. My father half rose from his seat. The camera caught Jessica finally breaking away from the wedding planner, running toward the AV booth. Too late. The final slide appeared, the blonde woman holding a handwritten sign saying, "Congratulations, Ryan. Call me when you're ready for the real thing. Love always, Diana." The screen went black. The lights came up on chaos. Bailey stood motionless in the center of the dance floor, her expression one of pure shock. Ryan had the look of a man watching his life implode in real time. "Who is Diana?" Bailey's voice, though quiet, carried perfectly through the silence that had fallen over the reception. Ryan swallowed hard. "An ex. From college." "It's nothing." Patricia stepped forward. "Diana Winters. From the Winters family in Greenwich. They own the shipping company. She and Ryan dated for 3 years and were practically engaged before this. Hasty arrangement." "Hasty arrangement," my mother repeated, standing now. "They've been engaged for a year." "A year isn't long enough to determine if someone fits into a family like ours," Patricia replied. "Diana comes from the right background. She understands Ryan's responsibilities to the Sullivan name." Ryan finally found his voice. "Mom, what have you done?" "We discussed this." "I'm protecting you," Patricia hissed, loud enough for the microphone to catch. "This marriage is a mistake. The prenup isn't even finalized correctly." Bailey's head snapped up. "What prenup?" The silence that followed was deafening. My phone exploded with texts from Heather. Bailey didn't know about a prenup. Ryan's family lawyer brought papers yesterday. Bailey refused to sign without reading first. Ryan promised to tear them up after ceremony. I watched my sister's face transform as understanding dawned. "You were never going to tear up those papers, were you? This whole wedding was just to appease your parents while you kept your options open." Ryan reached for her arm. "Babe, it's complicated. My family's business, the inheritance structure dash." "And Diana?" Bailey's voice cracked. "Is she complicated too?" "That's over," Ryan insisted, though his eyes flickered toward the doors. Jessica finally reached Bailey's side, whispering urgently in her ear. Bailey's eyes widened further. "She's here?" Bailey whispered back, the microphone on the nearby table catching every word. "Diana is here." As if summoned by her name, the doors to the reception hall opened. The blonde from the photo stood there in a red dress that probably violated every wedding guest dress code in existence. Behind her, the Sullivan family lawyer clutched a portfolio of what I assumed were the contested prenup documents. I desperately wished I could climb through my screen and stand beside my sister. Instead, I watched helplessly as Bailey's perfect day disintegrated completely. Ryan's brother stood suddenly, pointing at Bailey's hand. "She can't leave with grandmother's ring. That's a Sullivan heirloom, not meant for dash." "For what?" My father interrupted, his face flushed with anger. "Not meant for my daughter?" "The woman your brother just married." Ryan's father joined the fray. "That ring is worth more than your daughter's entire teaching salary for a decade. It stays in our family." "I am your family now," Bailey said, her voice gaining strength as anger replaced shock. "Or did everyone forget we just exchanged vows?" Patricia scoffed. Vows are meaningful when the marriage is real. This was clearly a mistake Ryan was pressured into. Pressured? My mother exclaimed. Your son pursued Bailey for months. He proposed at our family Christmas dinner. Diana stepped further into the room, her expression a mixture of triumph and fabricated concern. Ryan, honey, you don't have to go through with this. Your parents understand you made a mistake. The jet is ready if you want to leave. The jet? They had an escape plan ready? Ryan looked trapped between worlds, his gaze bouncing between Bailey, his parents, and Diana. He reached for his champagne glass and drained it in one gulp. I need some air, he muttered, moving toward Diana rather than his bride. Jessica handed Bailey something, the envelope she'd received earlier. Bailey opened it, read quickly, her face draining of color. Hotel room receipts? Bailey's voice rose. You've been meeting her throughout our engagement? The weekends you were on business trips. Ryan spun around. Who gave you those? That's private. Private like our marriage? Bailey countered. Private like the prenup you hid from me? Ryan's father stepped forward. That prenup protects generations of Sullivan wealth. Did you really think we'd let it fall into the hands of a kindergarten teacher from the wrong side of town? My father surged to his feet. That's enough. Bailey, we're leaving. This whole family is toxic. What happened next occurred so quickly the live stream could barely keep up. Bailey, my sweet, proper, perfect sister who had never made a scene in her life, let out a scream of pure rage. She yanked the massive diamond ring from her finger and threw it directly at Ryan's face. He ducked, the ring sailing over his head and landing in a champagne fountain with a splash. Ryan's brother lunged for it, colliding with a waiter carrying a tray of glasses. Crystals shattered across the dance floor. Ryan's father grabbed Bailey's arm. Where do you think you're going? This wedding cost us a fortune. My father shoved him away from Bailey. Don't touch my daughter. The two fathers, men in their 60s who should have known better, began grappling like teenagers. Ryan's mother screamed. My mother grabbed the wedding cake knife, not to use as a weapon, but the image was alarming nonetheless. Bailey stood in the center of it all, her wedding dress catching the light, looking like an angel in the midst of hell. Tears streamed down her face, but her expression was one of dawning clarity. The wedding planner was frantically trying to usher out guests. The DJ had abandoned his station. And the camera operator, God bless their professional dedication, kept filming. As glasses shattered and accusations flew, Bailey looked directly at the camera, directly at me, with an expression that said, "You were right to stay away." And then, at the height of the chaos, with my sister's tear-streaked face centered in the frame, the video froze. The image of destruction remained on my screen, Bailey's anguished expression, my parents in the background trying to reach her, Ryan looking toward Diana, shattered glass glittering on the floor like the broken promises scattered around my sister. I clicked refresh frantically. Nothing. Restarted my browser. Still frozen. Rebooted my computer entirely. The live stream remained stuck on that terrible tableau, a perfect metaphor for a marriage that had crumbled before it truly began. For 30 agonizing seconds, my screen remained frozen on that image of wedding disaster. Then suddenly the live stream sputtered back to life, throwing me right back into the chaos, which had only escalated during the technical interruption. Diana, Ryan's ex-girlfriend, had moved fully into the reception hall now, standing with the confidence of someone who believed she belonged there. Her red dress caught the light as she approached Ryan, who stood paralyzed between his past and his present. Ryan, Diana's voice carried clearly through the microphone that had been abandoned on a nearby table. Your mother called me last week. She said you were making a terrible mistake. Bailey's head whipped toward Patricia. You called her? You invited her here. Patricia Sullivan straightened her designer jacket, unrepentant. Diana has been part of our lives for years. She understands our family's position in society. Position? Bailey repeated. Is that all that matters to you? Not whether your son is happy. Happiness is fleeting, Patricia replied coldly. Legacy is forever. The Sullivans have built something that will last generations, and we need the right partnerships to maintain it. Ryan's father nodded. The merger with Winters Shipping alone would increase our holdings by 30%. It's simple business. Business? My mother's voice rose in disbelief. This is your son's marriage, not a corporate takeover. Diana stepped closer to Ryan, placing a manicured hand on his arm. Ryan, honey, you know we were always meant to be together. This was just your rebellion phase. Your trust fund is still intact, your position at the company secure. We can go to Bora Bora tonight like we planned for your birthday. Bailey's face crumpled. Your birthday trip? The one you canceled because of a business emergency? You were planning to go with her. Ryan finally spoke, his words slurred from champagne. It's not what it looks like. Diana and I are just friends now. Diana laughed, a tinkling sound that somehow cut through the room's tension. Friends who cut the suite at the Plaza Vizzy twice a month? I still have the key card you gave me, darling. That was the moment Bailey broke. Not with tears or collapse, but with a fury I'd never seen in my perfectionist sister. You complete fraud, she screamed, her voice so raw it distorted the live stream audio. I gave you everything. I changed my hair because your mother said blondes look better in family photos. I quit the teaching job I love to work at your family's foundation. I let you convince me my friends weren't sophisticated enough to be in our wedding. Ryan took a step back, looking genuinely alarmed at this version of Bailey he'd never seen. Bailey, you're making a scene, he hissed. A scene? Bailey laughed, a sound bordering on hysterical. You want to see a scene? She grabbed the champagne bottle from the nearest table and appended it over his head. Expensive champagne soaked his custom tuxedo as guests gasped. Ryan sputtered, wiping his eyes. Have you lost your mind? This suit cost $5,000. Bill me, Bailey snapped. Or better yet, ask Diana to cover it. She can afford it with all the gifts you've been buying her with our joint account. Jessica stepped forward, placing a steadying hand on Bailey's shoulder. I tried to tell you, Bailey. When I saw the charges on the credit card statement you asked me to help with. You knew. Bailey turned to her maid of honor. Just for a week, Jessica admitted. I hired a private investigator after finding the hotel charges. The evidence arrived an hour before the ceremony. I was trying to figure out how to tell you. Ryan's mother marched toward them. How dare you hire someone to spy on my son? That's the problem with you people, no class, no understanding of privacy. Privacy? Jessica laughed. Your son was cheating on his fiancée. He doesn't deserve privacy. Patricia reached for Bailey's bouquet, which had been placed on the head table. This farce is over. Ryan, we're leaving. The lawyer has the annulment papers ready. My father finally reached Bailey's side, putting a protective arm around her. Get your hands off my daughter's things. Ryan's father interceded, his face flushed with anger or possibly his fifth scotch. Control your family, Howard. This entire spectacle is beneath us. Beneath you? My father responded, his voice rising. Your son cheated on my daughter, your wife orchestrated this ambush, and we're beneath you? What happened next occurred so quickly the camera barely captured it. Ryan's father made a dismissive gesture, accidentally or perhaps not, shoving my dad backward. My father, never one for physical confrontation, nevertheless responded instinctively, pushing back with enough force to send Ryan's father stumbling into the wedding cake table. The magnificent 8-tier cake wobbled once, twice, then collapsed in slow motion, a cascading avalanche of white fondant and raspberry filling. It hit the floor with a splat that silenced the room momentarily. In the sudden quiet, Diana's laugh rang out. Well, that's certainly symbolic. Bailey turned toward her, eyes blazing. You think this is funny? You helped destroy someone's wedding day for what? A man who cheats? A family that values bank accounts over people? Congratulations on your prize. Diana's smile faltered. Ryan and I have history. We belong together. This marriage was just his last rebellion before settling down properly. Properly. Bailey's voice had gone dangerously quiet. With his mommy's approved choice? Patricia stepped between them. That's quite enough from you. The car is waiting, Ryan. Diana, perhaps you should meet us at the house. Ryan, still dripping champagne, looked uncertainly between the women. I think we all need to calm down and discuss this privately. Discuss what? Bailey asked. Your double life? The prenup you hid from me? The fact that this entire wedding was apparently a charade while you waited for your mother's real choice to become available. She turned to the assembled guests, many of whom were recording the drama on their phones. I want to thank you all for coming to witness what I thought was the happiest day of my life. Instead, you get front row seats to its spectacular destruction. The open bar will remain available while I go file for the world's fastest divorce. Bailey reached for her bouquet, which Patricia still clutched. They struggled briefly before Bailey yanked it free and hurled it directly at Ryan's face. Unlike the ring, this missile hit its target, white roses and baby's breath exploding on impact. The room erupted again. Ryan's brother lunged for Bailey, shouting about family embarrassment. Jessica intercepted him with a well-placed elbow that sent him stumbling into a table of champagne flutes, which crashed to the floor in a symphony of shattering crystal. My mother grabbed Bailey's hand, pulling her toward the exit. Diana moved to block their path, and in the collision that followed, Diana's red dress caught on a chair, tearing dramatically up the side. She shrieked as if physically wounded. The camera operator, displaying remarkable commitment to documenting every moment of this disaster, zoomed in on Bailey's face as she turned to look back at the destruction. Tears streamed down her cheeks, but her expression showed something beyond pain, a dawning realization that she had narrowly escaped a life of manipulation and lies. And that's when it happened. At the peak of chaos, with Bailey in the foreground and wedding destruction behind her, the live stream froze again. This time permanently. I stared at my screen, the tableau of disaster now burned into my retinas, Bailey's tear-streaked face in perfect focus, her wedding dress slightly torn at the shoulder, her expression a mixture of heartbreak and fierce dignity. Behind her, glass shattered across the dance floor, cake splattered like a crime scene, Ryan caught between his mother and his mistress, my parents trying to shield Bailey from further harm. I clicked refresh obsessively. Nothing. I tried different browsers, restarted my router, even attempted to access the stream on my phone. The image remained frozen, a perfect metaphor for this day, beauty destroyed in an instant, the careful facade cracked to reveal the ugly truth beneath. I felt simultaneously helpless and relieved, devastated for my sister, yet grateful I wasn't physically in that nightmare. As I stared at Bailey's frozen image, I realized I was witnessing the exact moment my perfect sister's perfect life shattered. And strangely, it might be the most honest moment our family had experienced in years. For 3 agonizing hours after the live stream froze, I called everyone in my family continuously, receiving no response. My texts to Heather went unread. Calls to my parents went straight to voicemail. Even the venue didn't answer their phones. I paced my apartment, still in my blue dress, feeling like I was losing my mind with worry and guilt. Had I been there, could I have prevented this disaster? Or at least supported Bailey through it? The frozen image of my sister's tear-streaked face haunted me every time I closed my eyes. Around midnight, my phone buzzed with a notification. I lunged for it, expecting a text from family. Instead, it was a Twitter alert. Sullivan wedding disaster was trending locally in my hometown. My stomach dropped as I opened the app to find video clips from guests' phones circulating online. Most were brief, 15 seconds of Bailey throwing champagne on Ryan, my father shoving Ryan's dad into the cake, Diana's dramatic entrance. Each fragment added to the humiliating public record of my sister's worst day. The comments were brutal, people treating my family's pain as entertainment. I deleted the app immediately, feeling sick. This was no longer a private family disaster, it had become public spectacle. At 1:43 a.m., Heather finally called. "Oh my God, Mackenzie," she said before I could speak. It was even worse after the stream cut out. "Is Bailey okay?" I demanded. "Where is she?" "She's with your parents at their house." Everyone's phones were confiscated by lawyers after the police came. "Police!" I nearly screamed. Ryan's brother tried to physically prevent Bailey from leaving. Your dad intervened, and it escalated from there. No arrests, but lots of threats about pressing charges on both sides. The Sullivans are damage controlling like crazy. I sank onto my couch, overwhelmed. "I need to know everything, Heather. Start from the beginning." Over the next hour, Heather filled in the gaps in my understanding. The tensions had begun months earlier than I realized. Ryan's family had been controlling every aspect of the wedding planning, overriding Bailey's choices with Patricia's preferences. The guest list had ballooned with Sullivan business contacts Bailey had never met. Bailey was miserable for weeks, Heather explained. But she kept saying it would be worth it once they were married and the pressure was off. Then, just 3 days before the wedding, the Sullivan family lawyer had appeared with prenuptial documents that essentially left Bailey with nothing in case of divorce, regardless of fault. She'd been blindsided. Ryan promised it was just a formality his parents insisted on, Heather continued. He swore he'd tear it up after the ceremony. Bailey was suspicious, but didn't want to cancel everything at the last minute and humiliate herself. What Bailey hadn't known was that Ryan's family had been in contact with Diana throughout the engagement. The Winters family shipping business represented a valuable merger opportunity, and Patricia had never stopped hoping the relationship would resume. Diana was supposed to make a scene at the church during the "Speak Now or Forever Hold Your Peace" part, Heather revealed. Patricia arranged it, but Diana chickened out until the reception. As for Ryan himself, the evidence of his betrayal was irrefutable. Credit card statements showed hotel charges throughout the engagement. Phone records revealed constant communication with Diana. He'd even purchased the trip to Bora Bora, the same destination he'd promised to take Bailey for their honeymoon. Jessica discovered it all last week when helping Bailey organize wedding finances, Heather said. She hired a PI who delivered the final proof right before the ceremony. She was trying to figure out how to tell Bailey when Patricia hijacked everything with that slideshow. The most shocking revelation came about the Sullivan family's true motives. The prenup contained clauses about Bailey's required performance as a Sullivan wife, hosting specific numbers of charity events, maintaining certain social connections, even weight and appearance standards she had to meet. It was basically a job description, not a marriage contract, Heather said. And Bailey would have signed it if Ryan had pushed harder. She really loved him. Around 3 a.m., my phone lit up with a text from my mother. Bailey finally asleep. Ryan's family threatening lawsuits over damaged reputation. We'll call tomorrow. Don't believe anything online. I slept fitfully, dreaming of shattered glass and torn wedding dresses. At 8 a.m., my father finally called. Dad, I choked out. I'm so sorry I wasn't there. Honestly, Mackenzie, he sighed, you were the smart one. You saw something in Ryan that the rest of us missed. That wasn't entirely true. I hadn't specifically distrusted Ryan. I'd just been avoiding family drama. But now isn't the time to clarify. How's Bailey? I asked. Devastated. Humiliated. But also relieved in a way. He lowered his voice. Between us, I think she's been unhappy for months but couldn't admit it. The Sullivans changed her, Mac. She stopped teaching to work at their foundation, changed her appearance to fit their image. Your mother and I didn't say anything because she seemed so determined to make it work. My chest tightened with guilt. I had noticed those changes in our video calls, but hadn't pushed hard enough when Bailey dismissed my concerns. Later that morning, Bailey herself called. Her voice was hoarse from crying, but steadier than I expected. You were right not to come, she said immediately. That wasn't a wedding. It was a business merger disguised as a ceremony, and I was too blind to see it. Bailey, I'm so sorry, I whispered. I should have been there for you. And done what? Thrown champagne on Ryan's other side. She attempted a laugh that turned into a sob. Actually, it might have been nice to have someone there who wasn't fooled by the Sullivans from the beginning. We talked for nearly 2 hours. Bailey revealed that she'd suspected problems for months, but had invested so much, emotionally, socially, professionally, that admitting failure seemed impossible. She'd left her teaching job for a position at the Sullivan Foundation, moved into Ryan's family-owned condo, even changed her hair color when Patricia hinted blondes photographed better for society pages. I kept thinking once we were married, I'd get the real Ryan back, she explained. The guy who used to bring me wildflowers and spend Sundays grading papers with me. But that guy disappeared the minute his family got involved. The most painful admission came toward the end of our call. The worst part is that Diana wasn't even a surprise, Bailey confessed. I found messages months ago, but Ryan convinced me they were innocent. Said she couldn't accept their breakup and kept reaching out. I chose to believe him because the alternative was too painful. When she finally hung up to rest, I sat in stunned silence, processing everything. My perfect, confident older sister had been systematically manipulated into doubting herself, compromising her values, and accepting treatment she would have once found unthinkable. That evening, my mother called with news that made my blood boil. "The Sullivans' lawyer called," she said, her voice tight with anger. "They're demanding Bailey return all wedding gifts, claiming since she caused the disruption, she's not entitled to them. They also want her to sign an NDA about the whole event." "That's outrageous," I exclaimed. "They orchestrated this entire disaster." "I know, but they're threatening to sue for defamation if she doesn't comply. They've already had those social media videos taken down with copyright claims." The final insult came from Ryan himself, a text to Bailey claiming he'd been caught in the middle and pressured by both sides. He suggested they meet to calmly discuss their options. Bailey's response was a single word: no. As night fell on the day after what should have been my sister's first day of marriage, I made a decision. I booked a flight home for the following morning. This time, watching from a distance wasn't an option. My sister needed me, and for once, I wasn't going to let her down. The Denver to Cincinnati flight gave me 5 hours to rehearse what I'd say to Bailey. Should I apologize for missing the wedding? Acknowledge I'd seen her humiliation live-streamed in high definition? Admit I'd felt a terrible moment of vindication when her perfect life cracked, revealing the messiness mine had always displayed openly? In the end, none of my prepared speeches mattered. When Bailey met me at the airport, dressed in sweatpants with her hair pulled back in a ponytail, a look I hadn't seen on her since high school, words became unnecessary. I dropped my carry-on and wrapped my arms around my sister, feeling her body shake with sobs against mine. "I've got you," I whispered into her hair. "I'm here now." My parents' house had transformed into crisis headquarters. The dining room table disappeared under stacks of legal documents, the unsigned prenup, wedding contracts with unpaid balances, cease and desist letters from the Sullivan family lawyer. My mother fielded calls from concerned relatives, while my father consulted with an attorney friend about Bailey's options. That first night home, after my parents had gone to bed, Bailey and I sat on the back porch swing like we used to as teenagers. The night was cool, lightning bugs blinking in the darkness. "I should have listened to you," Bailey said finally, breaking our comfortable silence. "About what?" I asked. "Everything. Moving away. Setting boundaries with Mom and Dad. Not trying so hard to be perfect all the time." She pulled her knees to her chest. "You always saw through the Sullivan facade. You asked questions about Ryan's sudden career success, about why we never spent time with my friends anymore." I shook my head. "I wasn't some insightful guru, Bailey. I was just jealous half the time. You had everything figured out, and I was the family screw-up making impulsive decisions." Bailey laughed, a genuine sound that startled us both. "Figured out?" Mackenzie, I was engaged to a cheating mama's boy who expected me to sign away my autonomy in a prenup. My life is literally in shambles right now. Fair point, I conceded, and then we were both laughing, the kind of slightly hysterical release that comes after intense stress. When we calmed down, Bailey turned to me with unexpected seriousness. Thank you for watching online. As humiliating as it is knowing you saw everything, at least one person in my life witnessed the truth. Everyone else is trying to revise history. What do you mean? I asked. Ryan's family is telling people I had a mental health episode at the reception. That Diana was an innocent friend who came to support Ryan. That I attacked her in jealous rage. Bailey's voice hardened. They're painting me as the unstable teacher who couldn't handle their world. The injustice ignited something protective in me. We have the live stream recording. I saved it before it went down. Bailey's eyes widened. You did? Laptop's in my bag. It doesn't show everything, but it clearly shows Diana's entrance, the slideshow, Patricia's admission she invited her. It's all there. For the first time since I'd arrived, I saw a spark in my sister's eyes. That could change everything. The next morning, we called a family meeting. My mother poured coffee while I connected my laptop to their TV, showing them the crucial portions of the live stream. I'm not suggesting we release this publicly, I clarified. But having it means the Sullivans can't completely rewrite what happened. My father nodded slowly. Leverage. For the legal negotiations. And for my own peace of mind, Bailey added. Proof I didn't imagine how calculated this all was. That afternoon, we met with a lawyer who specialized in high-profile divorces. After reviewing the footage and documents, she looked up with a determined smile. Mrs. Sullivan, or do you prefer Ms. Miller again? She asked Bailey. Definitely Miller, Bailey replied firmly. Ms. Miller, the Sullivans clearly orchestrated this humiliation. The livestream evidence, combined with the financial documents showing Ryan's ongoing relationship with Ms. Winters, gives us substantial leverage. I believe we can not only free you from their demands, but potentially secure a settlement for emotional distress and career disruption. The next week passed in a blur of legal consultations, evidence gathering, and emotional processing. Bailey and I fell back into the sisterly shorthand we'd lost over years of growing apart. I worked remotely from our parents' house, extending my stay indefinitely. Each night, Bailey and I stayed up late, reconstructing our relationship conversation by conversation. I was always so jealous of your freedom, Bailey confessed one night. You seemed so comfortable being yourself, even when Mom and Dad disapproved. Me? Jealous of you. I laughed. The golden child who never disappointed anyone. Until now, Bailey said softly. I grabbed her hand. Hey, standing up for yourself isn't disappointing. It's the bravest thing you've done. 2 weeks after the wedding disaster, we faced another hurdle. The Sullivan family had requested a meeting. Bailey's lawyer advised against it, but Bailey was determined. I need to look them in the eye, she insisted. Not as Ryan's humiliated bride, but as myself. The meeting took place at Bailey's lawyer's office. Ryan came with his parents and their attorney, all wearing expressions of practiced concern. Bailey, darling, Patricia began, we're so worried about you. This emotional reaction dash. Stop. Bailey's voice was quiet but firm. I'm not here to be gaslit. I have the live stream recording, the hotel receipts, the prenup, and Diana's text messages to Ryan that she helpfully sent me afterward. The Sullivan lawyer stepped forward. We're prepared to offer a generous settlement if you'll sign an NDA regarding the unfortunate events at the reception. Bailey smiled. I have a counterproposal. I don't want your money. I want a public apology to my family for the humiliation you orchestrated, my job back at the elementary school with a recommendation letter, and all wedding gifts to be donated to the domestic violence shelter I volunteer with. In return, I'll sign a mutual non-disparagement agreement. The negotiations lasted hours, but ultimately, the Sullivans valued their reputation more than revenge. They accepted most of Bailey's terms, eager to put the scandal behind them. As we left the meeting, Bailey walked taller than I'd seen since before the wedding. I think that's what closure feels like, she mused. 6 months later, life had transformed for both of us. Bailey had moved to Denver, taking a teaching position at a progressive elementary school near my apartment. The sister who had once clung to our hometown now embraced the adventure of a new city with surprising enthusiasm. We established a standing Sunday dinner tradition, sometimes cooking together, other times exploring Denver's restaurants. During one such dinner, Bailey raised her wine glass in a toast. "To catastrophes that turn out to be rescue missions," she said. I clinked my glass against hers. "To sisters who find each other again in the wreckage." Bailey smiled. "You know, I never thanked you properly." "For what?" "Missing your wedding and watching your humiliation online." I winced. "For being my witness," she replied seriously. Everyone there was caught up in the moment, defending one side or the other. "You saw it all clearly from a distance, with perspective I couldn't have." "Your distance wasn't abandonment. It was clarity I desperately needed." Our mother called weekly, her relationship with both daughters evolving as she recognized the damage her perfectionism had caused. Our father had become Bailey's unexpected champion, standing up to relatives who questioned her decisions. Last week, Bailey declined a date with a perfectly nice accountant my coworker had introduced her to. "I'm not ready," she explained. "I'm still figuring out who Bailey is without trying to be someone's perfect wife or daughter." I nodded, understanding completely. "No rush. Some of us take decades to figure that out." "Speaking of which," Bailey said, "I enrolled in that photography course I've always wanted to try." The one Mom said was a waste of time compared to education credentials. Looking at my sister now, her hair back to its natural brown, her smile genuine, her eyes clear of the constant anxiety to please, I realized we'd both been rescued that day. Bailey from a marriage that would have slowly erased her, and me from the perpetual role of family disappointment. Sometimes the clearest view comes from a distance. Sometimes a frozen image of chaos can be the first frame of a much better story. And sometimes it takes watching a perfect facade shatter to finally see the authentic beauty waiting underneath. So, have you ever watched someone's perfect life collapse, only to realize it was the best thing that could have happened to them? Drop a comment below telling me about a time when disaster turned into opportunity in your own life. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want more stories about family dramas, rebuilding after catastrophe, and finding yourself in unexpected places. And remember, sometimes the people watching from a distance see things most clearly. Thank you for being my witnesses today, and I'll see you in the next video.